All right, everybody. Stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. I know I'm coming to you late, but I was curious to see how this stock actually went into the close and how we looked after hours. But we're looking at SoundHound AI Incorporated, ticker symbol SOUN, listed here on the NASDAQ. Stock got above $5 a share, up a couple of more cents after hours, about another 1.5%. But we can see we closed at 507, up almost a full point, and it was maintaining that 20+% move for several hours here going into the close. And as we see, we have a handful of people jumping in still after hours. But I just wanted to look at a situation like this and just remind you that, in my opinion, when we have something that has some big potential value down the road, we have these big run-ups and then the stock kind of goes quiet, starts selling off, starts flattening out. In my opinion, when you start to get impatient or you start to compare it to other things, right? Oh, look at this other stock that's been doing big things, and SoundHound hasn't done anything for 2 months. I appreciate the fact that you get impatient, especially now with, social media and everyone posting all their gains, and you can see that if it works out, you can make big returns within a day or within a week, right? So if you're holding something for like 2, 3 months and nothing's happening, it starts to chip away at your patience, right? And then you start to re-question your conviction, re-question the position. Should I really be holding this for the long term, or should I be trying to make money on something else here in the shorter term? Is anything going to happen? I feel like the stock's been quiet for a couple of months. And this is why I say, in my opinion, when you start to tap into that kind of emotional side, that is when sometimes it pays to take a step back and just reevaluate the whole position and kind of remind yourself about your conviction and exactly why you bought it to begin with. And if we can deal with the short-term volatility for the long-term growth, that's why I say, when the stock pulls back big like this, or we have this kind of 2 month little consolidation period really since earnings, something like this, in my eyes, should really be viewed as an opportunity as opposed to a negativity. But we can see that since the initial pop, it almost looks like we formed this big symmetrical triangle. And of course, symmetrical triangles, we could pop either higher or we could break lower. As we see, we got a 20% pop today on the news that they're basically rolling out this voice AI assistant in the automobiles, right? Now, they announced this, I know, a couple of months ago, and they announced also working with Nvidia on one that doesn't even require connectivity to the network to actually, help the driver. So it seems like this is something that may potentially be rolled out not only across a lot, all markets basically throughout Europe, as we're seeing, but also I know I'm personally speculating that we're going to potentially start seeing these voice AI assistants rolled out across almost every sector. I really do think it's going to streamline a lot of services, and I do think that it's going to increase efficiency. And this is the AI age that we're in, and it's basically, whether it's AI developing a program, AI looking at a business, or a voice AI assistant, we see that almost day by day, week by week, that we're consistently, I don't want to say perfecting, but we're definitely improving what we've already done. And we're starting to do it rapidly. So that's why, again, I was speculating, I know, about like the healthcare AI sector. And that's what I mean. If these announcements continue to come out consistently on something like SoundHound, this is why I'm saying personally that over the longer term, we may start to see the quote unquote Nvidia effect, to where we're consistently seeing news and catalysts that the company got new clients, the company just signed a new contract with this company, or revenue is consistently coming in above estimates, so it's on the up and up, right? We speak about the consistency of Nvidia able to come in above expectations more times than not. And then what happens? Analysts come out, they're even more bullish, they increase the price target. Oh, someone who had a hold on it is now, upping their rating to a strong buy because they think over the next 12 months it's only going to get better, right? So this is what I mean about kind of like that snowball Nvidia long-term growth effect. And when people ask me, in my opinion, what company has that type of potential, I have been recently responding with SoundHound AI. I do think this is one of the few symbols that we looked at that can really explode in value and kind of show you that compounded growth, that compounded appreciation over the next 3, 5, 10, 12 years, right? Because again, Nvidia didn't happen overnight. But if you bought that 10, 12 years ago, I mean, you're set right now. And that's what I know everyone is kind of looking for, the next big thing. And also, we want to try to get in on the ground level. But something like Sound, long term, I think this can easily become, a 5, 7, $10 billion company. And right now, even with the stock sitting at 5 here after a big jump up today, market cap's only about 1.6 billion. So in my opinion, again, I know the revenue, 40, 50 million a year right now, so I know it doesn't kind of correlate with the current market cap, but look at ASTS. I mean, you guys have been keeping that one up. That market cap right now is about 3.2 billion. They're not generating revenue, right? Supposedly they quote unquote misled investors about their timeline. They got like half a dozen class action lawsuits coming against them. Satellites still haven't even been delivered, and then once they're delivered, we have to wait for them to be launched, and then once they're launched, we have to wait for the actual revenue to start coming in, right? And I understand a lot of you may own that, so you're pumped about it, so you don't want to think negatively on it. However, if that company is holding a $3+ billion market cap value right now, and you guys all think it's worth at least that much, if not more, well, SoundHound is actually signing clients. I mean, they're working with Nvidia. They got investments from major financial institutions here that recently took positions. They're branching out into multiple different sectors across multiple different markets, both foreign and domestic. So that's what I mean. If ASTS is worth 3.2 billion, twice as much as SoundHound's current market cap, then SoundHound is easily worth 5, 6 billion based on your potential logic. You understand what I'm saying? But again, I'm not trying to bash anyone's stock, but realistically, if ASTS, you're saying, oh no, it should hold 3, 4 billion in value. Well, SoundHound is actually generating revenue. So what are they worth? Right? I leave it to you. But this article real quick, just kind of talking about how the voice assistant is now live and in production in Peugeot, Opel, and Vauxhall vehicle brands in Europe. The assistant live and in production across 11 European markets, including Austria, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the UK. SoundHound said it expects to enter into 17 total markets by the end of July. So just inside of the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're looking to expand potentially into another half a dozen markets. For certain previously released models, SoundHound Chat AI with integrated Chat GPT will be available on demand and can be delivered over the air with no need to visit the dealer. So now you kind of have like what the gamers call like a quality of life upgrade. And of course, they make it extremely convenient where you don't even have to go to the dealer to get the upgrade. You can just, sign up and sign on. Quote, our collaboration with Stellantis has put both companies right at the cutting edge. Whoops. Hit the back button. Right at the cutting edge of innovation in the automotive sector, bringing the driver experience into a new and exciting era. Quote, SoundHound is proud to deliver voice AI technology that meets the market's demand for a next-generation consumer experience built on natural conversation. With the introduction of SoundHound, drivers and passengers will now enjoy hands-free voice control for things like managing navigation, making calls, or accessing real-time information. Users will also be able to ask detailed questions and continue a conversation as the voice assistant interacts with external knowledge sources and in-vehicle controls interchangeably. So this does seem like it could definitely be a nice little convenience to have this voice AI assistant in your automobile. And also, people forget too. I know some people may have initially heard about this story and they're like, yeah, what's the big deal? Right? That's how we react sometimes. What's the big deal? I mean, yeah, it's good. It's a nice catalyst, but, is it really going to catch on? Are they really going to generate big revenue from it? And of course, that kind of remains to be seen, right? Because we're just kind of in the initial rollout phases. But I always say that, sometimes it pays to put yourself in that situation, right? And if you're driving down a little road and God forbid, of course, I don't wish this upon anybody, but, if something happens, you have to swerve or, a tire pops or something like that. You go off the road, you're sitting in a ditch. If you're able to access this voice AI assistant and potentially get information to fix the problem, or you can, contact some services to let them know where you are. obviously we won't see the true value until we would personally be put in that situation, is kind of, my point here that I'm making. But again, as we said, probably can only be viewed as a good thing. And apparently you can upgrade nice and quick. You don't even have to go to the dealer to get this add-on. And again, working with Nvidia to make it so that you can still access this AI assistant without even having network connectivity. I just think it's a huge positive moving forward. And again, if they can potentially just continue to branch out to all these different companies and kind of just slowly showcase their technology across all of these different sectors and markets as well. This is why I'm saying personally, in my opinion, over the years, I'm kind of speculating that we might start seeing this in the healthcare AI sector and really just across the board for almost every major business and service out there. Because not only are we consistently improving upon what we have, but also, again, if we're kind of going to streamline every business and every service and just increase the efficiency of everything across the board, 20, 30, 40%, or whatever they claim that they can do, obviously, I think, in my opinion, more and more people are going to sign on over the longer term, which in turn is going to be generating more and more revenue, which will eventually, I know right now they're EPS negative, but will eventually lead to more and more consistently growing profits. And that's why I'm saying we could potentially see the Nvidia effect several years down the road, that kind of snowball growth effect where they're consistently beating earnings, then they come out, they sign a new client, and a new business taps SoundHound, and then this analyst raises its price target, and now this other analyst that was short is now going long and has a higher price target, and now, whoever, BlackRock takes a 8% stake, right? So we see that the snowball effect of the consistent positive catalysts can really propel a stock higher. And again, that's why when people ask me personally what I see over the next several years, right now, SoundHound seems to be the front runner. But we have looked at a lot of companies that do have some growing revenue over the last couple of years and could turn out very well. Something like Hims and Hers, of course, comes to mind. But real quick, let's wrap this up because, of course, I went off on a tangent and spoke for too long like I always do. But after hours stock up here at 519. So it looks like the daily RSI is about to approach that benchmark, even though it might not mean anything. But this is a 1-year chart, by the way, and this top fib right here was 512. And we can see that the stock ran up 514 and then closed at 507, right? Technically having a small rejection. And I was almost going to say, oh, maybe we're going to maybe flag here for a couple of days and then pop up even higher to this trend line here. I'm looking at about 556, 557 on my screen. But we can see after hours the stock's still going and it's at 519. So if the volume keeps coming in, we may potentially see this trend line test just over the next day or two. We can see about 556, 557, which incidentally also happens to be the next pivot point on the daily, as you see. So RSI up here now at 67, but again, last time we had this big pump, the RSI was above that 70 benchmark for a couple of weeks. So only time will tell if the stock immediately wants to sell off once the traders see that 70 plus on the RSI side, or if we just continue to break through and continue to climb up and just kind of start hacking away at these previous resistance levels. But you can see next pivot point 556, about 10% move from where we currently are, and the MACD was trending downward, and you can see we recently crossed to the upside a couple of days ago when we had the pop up to this resistance level. We had a slight rejection, and now boom, we have a big pop today. And looks like, again, a big symmetrical triangle almost was formed, and now we have our break up and not down. So that's why 556 could be next. And a lot of people I know, they were getting in at 380, 410, 420. Just seeing like the consolidation, seeing the flatness over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of months, and they were just waiting and hoping for something big to happen. And then you have the announcement today. We're rolling out across almost a dozen markets, looking to add about half a dozen more over the next 3 weeks. So people seem pretty pumped about that. Stock up over 20%. Looking at the weekly here, the RSI looks like we still have more room to go. And over the longer term here on the weekly time frame, we can see that the RSI kind of stayed middle of the road here. And when we had the big run up, we did get above that 70 benchmark and even hold it for about 2 months, it looks like. But here now we're making the curl back upward, and that's why I think that we can potentially see this next resistance level on the weekly of 687. So getting near the high sixes, maybe $7 a share, could potentially be incoming. Also, we had the big run up. I know people were talking about the potential short squeeze that was going to take place, and during this run up, a lot of people excuse me, a lot of people online I know were saying that they were looking for like 16, they were looking for 18, they were expecting much, much more. And the stock happened to hit about 10.5 and then start chunking down big. So if that is potentially like around the next levels, like the mid to high teens, then we may potentially be gearing up now after a big pump, sell off, flatten out, and now if we're gearing up for round two, we can potentially see higher highs. And even if we might not hit that 16 or 18 mark, I think, in my opinion, based on the volume, I think that's going to start coming in, we can potentially see like that $11.5, $12 mark, which of course was kind of back to these highs. This is May of 2022. So going back to multi-year highs, basically. And I do think it's possible. I do think it's possible. And the MACD, again, was kind of selling off and pulling back for about 3 or 4 months. And now you can see we flattened out and we're kind of beginning to curl back. So that's why if we just cross on the daily and if we get back up to that 556 resistance level, that trend line, if we happen to pop up above that, I think we're really going to explode, and the MACD on the weekly is going to potentially cross back to the upside as well, and I think that's just going to add to it even more. That's why we may potentially see like $7, $8, $9 over the next month or two. And I know that we also have earnings coming up. Please keep that in mind. Earnings due out in about 4 weeks, it looks like, first week of August. Estimates of a loss of 8.8 cents a share on revenue of 13.08 million. And in my opinion, again, obviously we want to keep the losses in check because we don't want to see too much bleeding with a company like this on the up and up. But also at the same time, personally, I think that the revenue fundamental metric is the number one component. It is the number one indicator that I think is going to dictate whether we continue to climb up and potentially get back to those highs, or if we kind of start to sell off and kind of drop down and channel downward again for a couple of months until next earnings. And I know this is good news that they're branching out to these markets, rolling out the voice AI in the automobiles. But again, if we're potentially kind of signing these deals and tapping these markets here throughout June, July, August, then technically we may not see revenue for the next 1 to 2 quarters. So again, I know right now it's good news, but obviously it's not really going to be in these numbers coming out over the next couple of weeks. But in general, overall, I mean, this is good news. And in my opinion, I think, again, it's just the tip of the iceberg, and I think there's more to come. But you can see how flat the stock was and how it was trying to hold this bottom support trend line here of this range. And then it ended up, again, climbing up recently with the MACD on the daily crossing, tried to retest, bounced off, and then boom, we had the catalyst today, the good news stock right now, 520 up another 2.5% today. So congratulations to all you shareholders who remained patient, remembered why you bought it, saw value. And again, hopefully over the longer term, this one works out well for everybody. And I'm going to end it there because I spoke for way too long. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But of course, more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, and they're very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.